Hello, I'm Dr. Mikey Mewborn, and this is Church Ministry. Today we're looking at the topic, the motivator. Now, there are many motivations that make people do what they do. Sometimes we look at these things as needs or things that we believe that we need. We can look at it from the very basic needs of needing food and shelter and clothes and things like that. And so those are very basic needs. But then we go into our goals and trying to have our goals met. And those are needs that we see that are personal. But whatever those needs are, we see those as motivations or things that motivate us to do things. So when somebody's trying to motivate somebody else to do something, a lot of times they're going to pull on that area of their lives where there's a need. They feel this need to be better at a certain area. And so when you're thinking about organizations and you're thinking about the church world, there are needs that we have that are personal needs, also spiritual needs. And so those types of things are helpful when motivating people to do certain types of ministry or maybe bringing in some kind of change. And so we're going to look at some of that today as we look into the lesson called The Motivator. It's good to be with you. Let's begin our study. Hello and welcome to Church Ministry. Today we're looking at the topic, The Motivator. We're also looking at the outline notes from Kenneth Gangel's book, Team Leadership. It's so good to be with you today. Let's begin our study. When we're talking about the motivator, we're also talking about motivations. What motivates us to do what we do in our jobs or in the places that we serve as a volunteer. And so I want to begin with some quotes that I think are wonderful. Wayne Dyer said, "If you believe it will work out, you'll see opportunities. If you believe it won't, you will see obstacles." Kind of a motivational type of message here for us. Let me give you some more. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. Kind of pushing you toward going against maybe the obstacles or being resilient in certain areas. Another one might be, don't watch the clock. Do what it does. Keep going. See that from success.com. Here's another one. Without rain, nothing grows. Learn to embrace the storms of your life. Very strong motivation there. Also, failures are a part of life. If you don't fail, you don't learn. If you don't learn, you'll never change, meaning you'll never get better. You'll never get stronger. But it's important as we talk about this topic of motivation that we see these different motivational speeches or motivational quotes that help us understand what does it mean to speak life into somebody. And can you do that from a leadership perspective? Can you do that as a manager or someone who's a chairperson? Of course you can. And so there's different factors that we have to look at when we see this. In talking about the factors in motivation, we see what Gangel said. There is a cause for the way people think and act. There's a motivation that all of us have, or everyone has, to make us do what we do. And we're going to look at some different theories on that here a little bit later on in this lesson. But there are things or causes that push us to do certain things and encourages us to do that, motivates us. And so when we know what those things are, we see how we can reach people, and then at the same time, how we're reached as well. Behavior is linked to value system. So the things that you value in life, your behavior will be close by, or it will be linked to it. And so it's important for us to see what a person's values are, because that's going to dictate their behavior. The behavior of individuals relies heavily on the environment surrounding an individual. That's what Gangel says about that. And I think that's wonderful because who people are is very much involved or linked to how they grew up or the environment that they actually live in. And so behavior is really a part of what we value, and what we value comes from our environments in many ways. Now that's not always the case, but in many ways it is. So it's our past is making us who we are today, or what we value today. I think this is a great little quote here. Dear past, thank you for all of the experience and lessons. Dear future, I am ready. You see these types of quotes a lot of different places, and motivational type of the motivational mindset. And what this is saying is, yes, I did face a lot of things in my past. I have a lot of experiences. I've seen a lot of pitfalls. I've seen a lot of struggle, adversity. But now, with that, I'm more ready than I've ever been. I am educated in those areas. I have somewhat of street smarts as well as just experiences in general, and also maybe I have an education there. So whatever comes at me, I'll be willing to to go against the challenge. And so that's what the mindset is there. And so Gangle is saying that's important when you think about leading people, motivating them, and then also what motivates them and what motivates you. 5 principles. Talking about motivation, Paul Buchanan says, the way a person behaves depends on both the person and his environment. So who they are, what their values are, what their understanding is, and then definitely what has been their environment. Who has been their family? What type of lifestyle did they have? Did they grow up in a very affluent area? Did they grow up in a very impoverished area? That has a huge impact on a person's life and how they think. Number 2, each individual behaves in ways which make sense to him. And there's so much truth to that. What we've learned growing up, what we know, what we've been taught, that makes sense to us because it's been taught over and over and over again, or we've seen it exemplified. That's what makes sense to us. That's what we know. We don't know anything different. So therefore, those things sometimes will bring about our behaviors and make us who we are. Also, number 3, an individual's perception of a situation influences his behavior in that situation. So perception does matter. What we see, what we perceive, that really is linked to our behavior because that's what we know. That's what we see exemplified. Then also, an individual's view of himself influences what he does. So how he looks at himself or how she looks at herself, that also is a huge influencer in a person's life. And then number 5, an individual's behavior is influenced by his needs, which vary from person to person and from time to time. And so all of these principles that motivate people or make people act a certain way can clearly be seen in what we see as or called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I think this is just a very important slide. Abraham Maslow came up with this, and these are it's kind of like a theorized motivational type of tool of why people do what they do or why they behave the way that they do. And so all of these needs that are mentioned here by Maslow are saying these are the motivators that we have in our lives. We start at the bottom. The biggest one that we have is physiological needs: food, water, warmth, rest. We've got to make sure that those things are taken care of because that is a very, very big deal. We call those basic needs sometimes. Then we get into safety needs. Are we secure? Are we safe? Is there a roof over our heads? Are we protected where we are? Those types of things. And then we get into the belongingness and love needs, intimate relationships, friends. This is very important. More important for some people than other people, but it's definitely a need that everybody has to be connected. Isolationism and being isolated in general is just not healthy for anybody. So it's a need. Then the next one is moving up, esteemed needs or esteem needs. Prestige and feeling of accomplishment. So you've done something, you've worked hard, and you have something to show for it. And so whatever that looks like, whether it's in the academic world or whether it's in some kind of construction, maybe it's building companies, whatever it might be, there's something that is so valuable to a person, and it's a need. They see it as a need, a sense of accomplishment. And then the top one is self-actualization. Achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. This is self-fulfillment needs. These are the types of things where you say, where a person says, I have reached my goal. I know what I am here for. I know what my purpose is, and I am fulfilling that. And that is a wonderful place to be when all the other things are met. And now you're at that point and saying, this is a motivator for me. It's not as vital, it's not as serious as the other ones, but it is a really big deal if all the other ones are taken care of. It can become the most important thing or the one that's focused on the most. So, have I truly attained what I was going after? So, wonderful pyramid for us to look at, wonderful chart, and it's very helpful when we're understanding what are the motivations that drive us. All right. As we move forward, we look at motivation is inseparably related to personal goals. 5 dimensions of human existence, Charles Morris says. Number 1, a preference for a responsible, moral, self-restrained participation in life. Number 2, delight in vigorous action for the overcoming of obstacles. Number 3, the value of self-sufficient inner life with a rich and heightened self-awareness. Number 4, a receptivity to persons and to nature. And then number 5, sensuous enjoyment and self-employment. And these 5 dimensions of human existence are important. When we're looking at this type of motivation, it is so related to what we believe is important in life. So whatever goals we set up, whatever ideas that we have for who we want to be or who we want to become, we see those in this 5 dimensions of human existence. And Charles Morris makes a case here that the human life and the value of a human is based on what they're going to accomplish, and it has a lot to do with that. And so that's why he's given us these, and I think it's very helpful when we look at what motivates people. Motivation depends upon information. Motivation should be informational and encouraging. Questionable tactics in motivation. Now you'll recognize these. Coercion. When somebody is coerced to do something or forced to do something, it's not strong motivation. People fight against that tooth and nail in many cases. They just don't want to do what they're told to do. But if they feel like it's a part of what they want to do, it's a part of who they are, well, then they're more apt to do that. Appeal to direct revelation. Sometimes when we're looking at certain things such as scripture related or very spiritually, directives for us spiritually that help us in the understanding of direct revelation, it makes us a little uncertain. Because what does that mean? Maybe that was a revelation for you, but is that a revelation for everybody else? And I think that can go a wrong direction very quickly. And so that can be very questionable. Guilt is another tactic that people use. Guilt is a way that people try to get other people to do things because they don't want to do it, or they think it's a better way, or maybe they think it's the only way they can get you to do it. And so guilt will be given. If you do this, then you care about me. If you don't do this, you don't care about me or the company. Can you imagine a leader saying that? That would be very, very manipulative, which is the next thing, manipulative tactics. It's this idea of pushing people to do things, whether through guilt or coercion or appealing to some kind of direct revelation from God. The idea that we are forced to do something or manipulated to do something when it's not even our heart. I think you see something interesting with the military. And I love the idea of the military in general because their whole focus is to help people realize a couple of things: who they are fighting for and what they are fighting for. So, who is the military fighting for? We would say people from their country, ultimately, or maybe people in other countries, but for an ethical or moral reason, right? Trying to better a situation for people, trying to protect an innocent country, per se, from an evil dictator. That's what you're looking at there. But also, You think about what they're fighting for. Are they fighting for some kind of ideal, or are they fighting for some kind of bigger reason? And maybe that's freedom. Maybe it's fighting for freedom so that we're not oppressed, or we're not suppressed, or we don't have anybody enslaving us. And I think that those are important things to know. Now, how does the military help people do that? Education. They educate and educate. Here's why this matters. Here's why it matters. And so it's constant education, constant practice, constant learning to get in the mind of a person why America is so valuable, why the idea of freedom is valuable, those types of things. And so there's a tremendous amount of classroom education that goes on in the military to help people understand this, as well as many of the exercises that are done on a daily basis as well. All right, so that helps us out a little bit. Now, motivation involves a changing of group attitudes. Attitudinal change increases when people spend time together. So people spend time together and attitudes change for the better. Attitudinal change is more likely as similarity among group members decrease. So this is interesting. There's a change, and there can be a really good change when different people are involved. And so you're learning more. When everybody in the room has the same type of gifts, or they're similar in their talents, it's a very boring type of setting because it becomes stagnant. It's not growing. It's not stretching anybody. It's not challenging anybody. And so it's good when there's differences among the group. Number 3, attitudinal change increases as opportunities for interaction increase. Number 4, attitudinal change increases or decreases in response to events which take place outside the group. And number 5, attitudinal change directly relates to a group crisis. When people go through a difficult time together, it brings people together. And understanding change within motivation. Motivation arises from what leaders give, not from what they take. Here's a couple thoughts on this idea of giving or being selfless. Be thankful in all things. So this is scriptural. We can see this definitely in Colossians chapter 3, being thankful and grateful in all things. Show interest in others. Show a true, genuine interest in others. Encourage others. Don't criticize too often. There might come a time when you need to criticize or say, hey, this isn't working out. Here are some things that I'm noticing. And criticism is okay at certain points, but that shouldn't be the normal daily routine. And then help people assimilate, help people get involved, help people be a part of, or help people belong. That's a wonderful thing to do there. I like this quote: we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Sir Winston Churchill said that, and I think that's just apropos for what we're discussing here when you understand change within motivation. Similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have other theories that are out there that help people see what's going on in the world, in their workplaces, wherever they are. Hertzberg's two-factor principle. He says it this way: you get job satisfaction on the left, job dissatisfaction on the right. Let's look at job satisfaction on the left first. Influenced by motivator factors: achievement, recognition, responsibility, the work itself, advancement, personal growth. Okay? And then on the right, you see dissatisfaction, influenced by hygiene factors: working conditions, coworker relations, policies and rules, supervisor quality, base, wage, salary, those types of things. And then you see in the middle, improving the motivator factors increases job satisfaction. And then go below that, improving the hygiene factors decreases job dissatisfaction. So you see that if you can better the work environment, and there's motivations as well. So motivations and giving a great work environment, you're going to have a great place for success in the workplace. Hertzberg's two-factor theory, you can see it here, the up and down. Poor hygiene factors decrease employee job satisfaction. So bad environment, all those types of things. But then going up with motivating factors increase employee job satisfaction. And so you can see here in this two-factor model theory that helps people understand here's what needs to be fixed, here's what needs to be encouraged, those types of things, and it really helps in the workplace. So, anyways, this has been the Motivator, our topic for today. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right, that concludes our study on the motivator. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. It's been very helpful to kind of see what motivates us to action. What are the needs in our lives? And I hope there's some things that you've taken away from this that will benefit your life as you continue on leading in ministry or leading in some type of organization. But it's good to be with you today. Have a great rest of the day. God bless you, and bye-bye.